Howdy folks, and welcome back to Pecan Ranch. Today I want to talk to y'all about a watering system that we have put together that waters all of our small livestock and is about 90% automatic. Welcome back folks. So all of our large livestock, our cattle and our pigs, are watered by a pond, and I've kind of redesigned how our pigs are where they're housed and where they rotate around. They never come up front anymore, so they're exclusively watered by a pond. And my cattle, depending upon which pasture they're in, they always have they will be watered by one pond over there or another pond. Either way, they will always have access to pond water. Now the small livestock, however, are fed or watered with water troughs, and in the past we'd have to fill those up every single day. In the summertime, multiple times a day, because they go through more water when it's really hot. So in order to make it easier, mostly on my son, whose job that was to water them, and also make it to where if he did forget to water them, the animals basically never go without water, and the best way to ensure that is to have an automatic system of sorts. So this is kind of the heart of the operation, and this is my water tower. So I have set this up on a gravity feed system, and by what I mean by that is I have a water tote, which you can find these typically online or on like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, wherever you want to search for your classifieds. You can find them for anywhere between $60 upwards to $100 or so if it's food grade. Now here's the thing about water. A water tote, not all of them contained safe things in them. So you need it to either be food grade to be sure of it, or if it contains something that was not toxic or hazardous and can be cleaned out easily with water. So you don't want chemicals in it that were, like, say, fertilizer or something that's caustic that you would have a tough time cleaning out. So I bought this container. It is not a food grade container. It did house non-toxic chemicals in it that were water soluble, meaning that it can be rinsed out and diluted with water, and the guy that I bought them from, he cleans them out. So I inspected it to ensure that it is my cleanest tote, and I even gave it one little extra rinse down and wash down before putting it into use as my water system. So the question is, if I'm watering them this way, why don't I just hook up to the water hose? For my purposes and my operation, there are two main reasons why I didn't want to do that. One, I didn't want a water hose constantly strung out across my yard, and I didn't want to trench a water line out here. So this makes it to where there's less water hoses running around everywhere. Two, it provides us a water reserve. This is a 275 gallon tote. My small livestock will, they'll drink about 25 gallons or so in a week. So this gives us several weeks worth of reserve in the event that, say, we lose water for some reason. Right out here we're on rural water, so we have water piped into the house, but occasionally we'll lose water pressure, or we might have no water for a day. And a day is not always that big of an issue, and it hasn't happened too frequently. But in the middle of the summertime, that could be quite dangerous for some of our animals if they can't get access to water. And then that makes it an additional challenge that we have to face. We'd have to go out to the ponds, grab buckets of water, bring them all the way out here, fill it up. It'd be a whole ordeal. So this gives us basically a backup. This will stay full for weeks, no problem. And then we just fill it back up with a water hose that we can just reach from our spigot over there. And it is gravity fed. I have this old storm shelter in my backyard, and so it sits up higher than all of the water troughs. So water is going to flow downhill, and that's what in fact it does. Now, to hook up to garden hoses, and you could do one of two things. You can either do piping, PVC piping, or you could do water hoses, which was the simplest, quickest solution for me. And you can buy this water hose adapter for IBC totes. You can find them on Amazon. They're relatively inexpensive. And then I just put in a splitter here, so that way I can run a short hose over here to goat tote, or goat tote, a water tote for our goats, and then ran a second hose to go along the lines. We have a couple of things. One, we have an automatic float valve, and then two, we have a freeze valve on there. That water trough valve, and I've used them over the years many times for automatic watering. What it does is when the water level lowers, there's a float in there that opens up a valve and allows water to flow in from the pipe. When the water fills up, it just closes off the water, and it keeps the keeps the trough from overflowing. Now, as a side note, if you don't plan on using a gravity-fed water tote system like I do, and you want to hook it up directly to your water hose, you want to ensure that your water pressure is not too high. If you have city water or even rural water of some kind, if the water pressure tends to be over 35-40 psi, those float valves will not have enough float power, if you will, to close the valve off, and it will continue seeping water in there, overflowing it, creating a pond in your backyard. You can do that. You can solve that problem by putting a pressure reducer on. You can find them typically anywhere RV supplies are sold, because you usually use one when you're hooking up to an RV, and they're relatively inexpensive. So that freeze valve that I have on there, let's get another quick little shot of this. That white valve that's on there, what it does is when the temperatures drop, it opens up incrementally. As the temperatures drop more and more, it'll open up more, and it allows the water to flow through there dripping, which will prevent your lines from freezing. So that is key to have in the winter time, because obviously none of these pipes are insulated. And there's a couple of ways you can prevent water lines from freezing. You can buy heated water hoses, sold again typically for RV supplies. Those are very expensive, and you have to hook up to an electric source. This is just a tried and true electric free way of keeping your water lines from freezing. You will waste some water, and be cognizant of where that water is going to be draining off to, if in the event that your temperatures drop low enough for it to freeze. The water tote itself, I will put a stock tank heater in, and this much water takes really cold weather to freeze it solid, and but a stock tank heater will prevent that in very cold climates or very cold temperatures. So we have our water hose that I've just run along the fence line, and here's our ducks enjoying some water here. And in this setup here, I have another splitter so that the water hose can go in to this water valve, this float valve, and then one heading out down the line to the next trough. There is a stock tank heater in there, and we put that grate over it. It keeps the ducks from getting in and swimming around and making that a big mucky mess. So I run the water hose across down to our final water trough, which is for the chickens and also some ducks in here. And on this one, because it is the last one in line of this kind of string of hoses, also has a freeze valve. So in freezing weather, all of the hoses will have water flowing through them, because those valves will open up and allow for the water to drip and run. And flowing water will not freeze unless it's very, very cold, and it has to, you know, it's not going to freeze the hose. That's how that's set up. And then obviously on my faucet, my water spigot outside, I also have another freeze valve on there that prevents the water spigot from freezing itself. Now, you may have a frost-proof garden spigot. It just kind of depends. My house is older and it wasn't commonplace back then, but the way a frost-proof spigot works is it's a very similar concept. It has a valve in it that allows it to open up and drip a little bit of water as it gets cold, and it'll keep that spigot from freezing. Mine doesn't have that, so I put a splitter in and added that freeze valve. Those freeze miser valves are kind of a little pricey for what they are, but they're inexpensive if you look into the grand scheme of things, how to keep things unfrozen in the winter. They're like 30 bucks a piece. You can typically find them anywhere where gardening supplies are sold. You know, Atwood's, Tractor Supply, I think Lowe's even carries them, and you can find them online as well. So the key thing is, if you are going to use a gravity-fed system and use a water tote, and this system will work in multiple applications. If you have an area that it is tough to get water to, for instance, because you don't have a means of getting a hose out there, you can have a couple of water totes and a trailer, for instance. You can fill one up back where you have access to water, and when one's empty, bring it out there, set it out in a back pasture or something like that, and do a similar setup, swap out your hoses, and you've got yourself remote water. These water totes come in handy for many things. I use them for all kinds of things around the farm. As you can see, I have, you know, a water trough here. I have a square bale feeder over there. My bulk pig feeder that holds 700 or 800 pounds of pig feed is out in the back. I plan on making many more things with these water totes because they're extremely useful, relatively inexpensive, and I have probably no less than 8 or 10 of them around the farm. Some are not in use yet, but they will be, and I'll be buying more because they're super useful. So the key thing is, if you are using a gravity-fed system, is you have to make certain that your water supply is up higher than your desired location to bring water to. I just so happen to have this very conveniently placed sturdy storm shelter that can bear the weight of this, and it sits up higher than all of the locations that I was going to be needing water piped to. So if you don't have a convenient place to put it that is naturally higher than the rest of your water troughs, you will need to build something. But keep in mind, water, especially in large quantities, is a lot heavier than you may think it is. Off the top of my head, I believe water is about 6 pounds per gallon or so. Do the math on that, and you'll find that 275 gallons is a lot of weight. So 275 gallons would weigh 1,650 pounds. It's almost 1,700 pounds. It's a lot of weight. You don't really think of water as being super heavy a lot of the times, but in larger quantities it can get particularly heavy. So you need to have something that can bear a large amount of weight if you have to build something. An easy solution that you're not really having to do a lot of constructing and building would be by cinder blocks. You could buy cinder blocks and stack them up, build yourself a little platform, and stack it up high enough to where you can get good gravity water flow. The higher it is, the more water pressure you will have. So you don't really need a ton of water pressure. You just need enough to where it will fill up those water troughs. And if you have a large enough water trough, then it's not like your animals will be drinking it so much that it's needing to fill at a fast rate, especially small livestock. So this has been a solution that works great for us. It has automated one of the chores on the farm, and any way that you can automate anything, or at least make it semi-automatic, then it will reduce the amount of time that you'll have to spend doing monotonous things of sorts, and you can spend more time focusing on other things that need your attention, because on a farm, believe me, there will be lots of things that always need your attention. And so if you can eliminate one thing, such as filling up water troughs every day, yeah, it doesn't save you a lot of time, maybe saves 10 minutes out of my day, or rather out of my son's day, but that's 10 minutes that can be put towards something else, can be focused on something else. And so any way that you can alleviate your daily chores, burdens, is always a good win. So that's our solution. Let me know what you folks think about it. And if you like this video, please subscribe so that way you can see future videos. Until the next time, folks, we will see you all back at the ranch.